Hello friends, this tutorial is going to walk you through the steps it takes to slurp information from someone's family tree on Ancestry into your own family tree. This question came up from a friend of mine who is working on her family tree on Ancestry, and she came across this ancestor. And in her research, she found a distant cousin who has the same ancestor and who has significantly more information in their tree. And so her question was, how do I slurp this from his tree into my tree? Now, the short answer is there's no way to just take the whole pile and just slurp that tree into your tree, but you can take each person from his tree and add it to your tree. But I'm going to add a few caveats. First of all, a family tree on Ancestry is typically not considered sort of a first tier source. Meaning, just because Shane, who I'm sure is a great guy and has done his research, has decided that this version of the tree is good for him, doesn't necessarily mean it's sourced and true and accurate. Although I'm sure that he's done his due diligence. So when you are looking at someone's family tree and you're trying to decide if their work is good and you want to take it and add it to your own tree, there's a few things I want you to check first and make sure. For example, let's go to Winifred, who is the first ancestor sort of in common. So as we look here, I'm noticing that he's got a lot of sources attached to the facts that are associated with this ancestor. So that is very encouraging to me, right? I want sourced data. And so I'm going to take some time, which I've already done for the sake of this video, and I'm going to look through his tree, and I want to verify that the facts he's quoted have sources and are trustworthy facts, right? And not just simply his word or the word of somewhere else, because sources mean facts. So let's go back and view her in the tree again. So for the sake of this video and for the sake of this tutorial, I've done my own due diligence. I've looked through his tree. I've looked at the people that I'm going to slurp from his tree and add to my own, or in this case, to Katie's tree. And I trust it, and I feel that the information is correct and good. This, and only after all of that, is when I'm ready to slurp information from his tree and add it to mine. So I can't stress enough that simply finding someone else's tree and having them sort of have this whole line that looks all good and done isn't necessarily enough to prove accuracy. Just because a tree exists doesn't mean it's true. But for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to say we've proven this true and accurate, and now we're ready to slurp it into our own personal tree. Now you can do this one of two ways. You could contact the person who owns this other tree, in this case Shane, and we could request that he share his tree with you. So he can make you a guest, he can make you a contributor, he can make you an editor, and then you have everything that's on his tree. When you drop down the tree, you would have another tree listed here when he's added you to the tree. For our sake, we're going to slurp the information and add it to our own personal tree. But another quick way to have access to everything is to contact the owner of the tree, particularly if they're a family member or someone you know in real life, and ask to have that tree shared with you. Then the tree will show up in your pop down of trees and you're good to go, as long as they're willing to share that with you, particularly as an editor or a contributor. The difference between an editor and a contributor is a contributor can add things to the tree, and that's all. A contributor does that an editor can add and delete and change things. So you have a little more change existing information. So you have a little more capacity to affect the tree. So, but in our case for now, we are going to say, here's this tree, it has all this information I like, I want it on my tree. So I've opened 2 tabs here for our sake. This is Shane's tree. This is the tree we want to slurp from. This is Katie's version of the same line, and this is what she wants to add to. So we're going to go to this first ancestor here, Winifred. And up here, there's a little thing here that says, save this person to your tree. And so this is what we're going to do. Now, understand, as we do this, we don't want to duplicate, right? We want to take what's on Shane's version of Winifred and add it to Katie's version of Winifred. So we're going to type in this name. There she is. And we're going to attach this. Now, for all intents and purposes, Ancestry is treating this as a source. And it's going to show them side by side and let me slurp and add information, and it's going to be sourced to this family tree. But we're going to get around that to get to the original sources. We'll get to that in a minute. So side by side, it's going to show me, this is in Shane's tree. You can see right here, this is Katie's tree. This is our original tree. This is the tree that we're gleaning information from. So put them side by side, and everything on the left-hand side can be added to the right-hand side if we put a check next to the box. So we can compare side by side. Now, for our purposes, they're the same, so we don't need to add anything different. Now, it's coming in and saying, here's the parents of Joseph. If we put a checkbox in this box, it allows us to compare those side by side and see if there's anything new we need to add. We don't. But there's Elizabeth. Looks the same. Looks good. So this is a spouse. So that looks the same. Looks good. Now it's going to allow us to add new people. Here's a new person, referencing as one of the children of Joseph and Elizabeth Sayers. So this is a sibling of Winifred, our original. This is someone who is not in Katie's tree. So we're going to add them. And it automatically takes the information and puts it over there as well. Now Joseph, Katie had, and we're going to compare those. They look the same. Henry, we'll compare those. They look the same. Victor, the same. Oh, here's a sibling she didn't know about. So Leslie, we check this box and suddenly it will add them as a new person over on Katie's tree. And it automatically adds the new information, everything with a checkbox. If there's something that we don't trust, we can uncheck any of these and they won't show up. But automatically, if there isn't a piece of data to match that, it automatically assumes correctly that we want that information. And here's Donald. So Donald looks the same. So we're going to go ahead and save this to the tree. And it's going to do its thinking. And here we are. Now, for me, the thing that I note is that the sources from the original don't show up here. And I personally want those sources. So I'm going to jump back a couple of screens and I'm going to come back. Here we are back at Shane's version of Winifred. And I'm going to jump to these sources. And I'm going to now tag these sources to my version of Winifred, because just as important as the relationships are and the other people were, to me is equally important the sources. And so how we would do that is have this drop down menu come, and I'm going to click on this first source. And here it is. And I'm going to save it to someone in my tree, which is Winifred. There she is, and I'll attach it. And I'm going to just save it. Now I'm going to jump back a couple screens again to get back to my original. And here's the second source. And I'm going to save that. And it's going to ask me who. I say Winifred. And I'm going to go ahead and save these sources. In this case, these are only indexes that allow me to go and order the birth and death certificates, but I want to have those. Now here's a baptism source, christening records. And here it is. And so I want to save that to Winifred. All right, I'm going to jump back a couple screens again, and I'm going to get all of these sources. Here she is getting married. So we're going to save that to Winifred. And the last source is this death index, which actually we saved already because it was the source up here for the birth. So now, this is Shane's version of Winifred, but let's go look at Katie's version now. So if we look at her profile, now we have the sources that Shane had used when he created his person, but we also have, if we look here, those additional siblings that we added, and we have the source. So this is the ancestry tree that we used as a source. Now, it's a little arduous and it's a little time consuming, but it's worth the effort to not only slurp the person from the tree, but to also slurp the sources. And so let's view her family tree. Now, it looks pretty much the same. Now we're looking at Shane's view version, and we're going to look at the tree. So I want to add something that gives you a feeling that we've added more to the tree. So we're going to jump up to Joseph. Joseph is the father of Winifred. And so here you see, here's Joseph Murphy, her version of Joseph Murphy. So we're going to go ahead and save this person to the tree. And we're going to save it under Joseph because that's his name. Now remember that for all intents and purposes, Ancestry is treating this as a source. But I'm going to take the opportunity to add additional people who are connected to Joseph to extend Katie's tree. So we're going to compare side to side. Oh, look, this is new. We didn't have this. And so you get this little icon and it put check marks there. I assume we want to take that. Now, in Katie's tree, we don't have Joseph's parents, but in Shane's tree, we do. And again, stressing that we have done our due diligence and we trust Shane's information is accurate, we're going to go ahead and take that information. So when I put a checkbox here, we've now added Joseph as a parent and Emma as the mother. And the spouse here, we had Elizabeth, so we'll put them side by side and compare those. And some children that we didn't have. So Thomas, Joseph, Henry, Winifred we had, but we'll go ahead and let them sit side by side. Victor. Now here's another Thomas. So that's interesting. This Thomas is 1928. I want to go take a look up here. This is 1918, a good 10 years later. It wasn't uncommon for families who had a baby and named them Thomas, if that child dies, that they use that name again if when another baby's born. So it can't be completely assumed that this Thomas from 1918 is the same as this Thomas's 1928. So he's obviously doing some research here, and this may be a work in progress. Leslie, Donald, and the spouse of Joseph we have is Amelia, and so does Katie. So pairing those side by side. Now here's some children of Joseph and Catherine. So these are siblings of our original Joseph, which we didn't have. So we're going to continue to extend Katie's tree by adding this extended family. We're going to go ahead and save it. Now, the thing you need to understand is that all of these new people that we added, and this is the new family that we added, it's going to take some time, but if you want to go and find those original sources, it's going to take you time to go to each of those people on this tree and on Shane's tree and find the sources he quoted and add those sources to the people here in your tree. It's worth the time and effort, in my opinion. I suspect that if they found those sources here on Ancestry, that eventually those same sources will show up in hints, but you never know. Look, her hints are exploding. So all of these new people that we've added, the hints are exploding, and a lot of those sources that you would probably connect are showing up there in hints. But I want to stress that it's worth the time and effort to go and find those original sources. So I'm going to hop back to my original, to the tree I was slurping from, if you will, right? So here's Shane's tree. Now let's go take a look at Katie's tree. Now, Katie's tree has grown. Not only do we have Joseph, who she had to begin with, but we have his parents. And we're going to go ahead and add the parents of Elizabeth and that extended family. And then from there, this tutorial should help her add the rest of the family that she wants to add. So let's take a quick jump over back to Shane's tree. And we're going to go to Elizabeth, his wife. And we want to add this person to our tree. You'll note that when we add this person, it's not moving the media. So you'll have to also do that manually as well, because Elizabeth has a picture here, as did Joseph. So we'll have to add those manually, and I'll take a second to show you how that's done. So here we are. The left side is the tree I'm slurping from. This is my tree, my original information. So side by side they look awful lot alike, but we don't have the parents, and this tree does. So by clicking this, it adds the parents. Both Annie and Thomas will now be added as parents. A spouse we had, side by side, those look the same. We did not have the children. So here we have side by side, just comparison, making sure there's nothing new. And then here are the siblings of Elizabeth. So these are the children. And by clicking this box, it adds them to Katie's tree. Again, we've done our due diligence. We trust that this tree is correct, and that's why we're slurping the information. Now, I would highly recommend, again, I'll reiterate that Katie take the time to look at this family, this new family, and go and find the sources for each of these people. She can do that one of two ways. She can use the hints from Ancestry and just verify the information, the birth and the marriage, and may even find more information with death. Or she can go back to that original tree, back to Shane's tree, jump back twice here, and you can follow these sources. Which, look at them all. This is much more information than we have when we slurped the tree from Katie's version. So let's go look at Katie's version of Elizabeth. So we've got data, and we definitely have people. Now, it looks here like we've got a lot of duplicates, and that's interesting to me that they didn't recognize them as already there. So let me show you how to fix that. So first we'll take this Thomas, and there's 3 of them there. So you go here to more options and you merge with a duplicate. First person shows up here, and it's suggesting these people who are probably different. And we know, at least for 1918, that these are the same. So it's comparing them side by side, and we're going to merge them. And there's actually one more, and we're going to merge them. Now I am not going to merge him with the 1912 version of himself, because I don't know which one's correct. Is it the Thomas Sayers in 1912 or 1918? So Katie's got some research there to do. But let's go look at the rest of the children here. So Thomas, Joseph, Henry, Vinegar. So there's 3 Thomas Murphys are. So let's merge those. 1928, we're going to merge. The odds that they had 3 children named Thomas R. Murphy that were born in 1928 are pretty slim. So hopefully we've cleaned that up now. Thomas Joseph Henry. Yeah, that looks much better. All right, so the point I want to make is that Elizabeth has minimal information here. We have slurped the facts. But when you look at the Elizabeth that's here on Shane's tree and this information and the documentation, you want that. So let me show you how to get that. So we're going to go to the media gallery, and here's where all the pictures are. And I want to get the picture. So I'm going to go to this picture and I'm going to say save to my tree. And so I'm going to save it to Elizabeth. Oop. There she is. And it's as simple as that. So I'm going to jump back a couple screens and get to the original here. This looks like a document that's the original marriage certificate for Joseph and Elizabeth. So I want to hop there. Wow, that's incredible. So he sent away and he ordered that. So I want to save that. I'm going to save it to Elizabeth. Which is great. And there it is. So we just keep doing that. We'd hop back a couple screens and come back. Here's her birth certificate. Come on. There it is. We're going to save that. Now this is the birth certificate for Leslie Reginald Murphy. So instead, I want to save this not to Elizabeth, which is what Shane has done, but I'm going to save it to Leslie. So when I can type the name in here of who to save this to, Leslie Reginald Murphy. And we can attach that birth certificate to them. I'll jump back a couple screens and see what this is. This is a story, is a PDF. I'm going to let Katie take a look at that and decide if she wants to download that. Let's look at this. So this looks like the birth certificate for Joseph Sayers, who, let's look at this. Yeah. So the mother is Elizabeth, and the father is not listed, which is interesting. So I'm going to go and I'm going to actually save this to Joseph Sayers, I think. But maybe I'll save it to both. Joseph Sayers. And if I want to go ahead and attach this to somebody else, then I can attach to another person right here. And I can go ahead and put this on Elizabeth Sayers as well, since she's the mother. And there it is. So that's the quick and easy way to go ahead and take this data. Now, again, I would highly recommend that she comes through here and she look at each of these sources and attach these sources to Elizabeth Sayers. It just adds the facts to her. So all of these different facts. So now this is Shane's version of the tree, right? And actually, let's jump to Winifred. This is the original tree that we were looking at. And this is Katie's version. So let's view her on the family tree. Let's actually look at Winifred. And so now what we only had to begin with was Winifred with her father and her mother. Now we have the parents of the father and the parents of the mother. And Katie can go along and keep adding in the way that we added, and one person at a time. It's very helpful to keep two tabs open so you can compare what you have to what you hope to have. So she has this whole generation to add and this whole generation to add, but she can add it in just the same way. And what I would suggest that she do next is to do Joseph and go ahead and slurp those things, and Emma, and it will add Emma's parents, and she'll just continue to grow until she has everything from Shane's tree onto her own tree. I, again, can't repeat enough that in spite of slurping the information, she still will have to go back and person by person take each of the sources and attach them to the people so that she has truly all the same information that Shane has. It's a little bit of work, but it also allows you to sort of check along the way and catch any mistakes or issues that may have creeped up. But for now, we've added 2 new generations and all these leaves. These leaves are awesome. Go and check those out because that's Ancestry's way of saving you a lot of work. And Ancestry goes and looks and says, hey, I found stuff about your person. Come and take a look, and if it truly applies to them, then you can attach it to your tree as a source, and it just makes sure that you have the correct information. So I hope that's helpful in how to take information from one family tree and slurp it off and add it to your own family tree. And I wish you good luck.